Start with the basics on a Tuesday. Jack Heath, J Dog on the boards. We are right near our capital in our Benny Media headquarters, beautiful building, and right near where we talked about yesterday, July 5th, 1776, celebrating Constitution Day, we'll call it, when New Hampshire became the first colony to break ranks or break away from the crown, the British crown, and go forward with its own state constitution. Good morning, New Hampshire. Good morning up in the Maine. We have additional signal strength for you on the seacoast: Dover, Rochester, Portsmouth, Barrington up the 16 corridor of the Spalding, over into Maine, Kittery up into Wells, Kennebunk, Portland. We have an additional 98.7 FM HD2, in addition to 98.1 FM, 1270 AM. And Lakes Region 107.3 FM, 107.7 FM, 98.3 FM, an additional HE2 up into the lakes, and worldwide beyond New England now. And we are become the number one news talk for live news talk network, as well as our on-demand at the Pulse of an H in the region and worldwide at the Pulse of an H. Hey, Alexa, hey, Google, play the Pulse of an H. Our poll question up on X. You just heard our friends from Fox reference the reaction of Denmark's leader and Greenland as a strategic location in terms of the United States. What can happen next? What about Colombia? The president has spoken rather critically of the leader of Colombia right after we took Maduro and his wife back to the United States and captured the Venezuelan former leader and frankly bad guy in a bad regime back here in court yesterday. So we have a lot going on. And let me just tell you, buckle up because we have a full show for you. I don't think we have any openings today. We're going to start off with a great guest. I believe Jaime Flores is the RNC Hispanic Communication Director, the Republican National Committee Hispanic Communication Director nationally, and nice enough to join us this morning to talk about some of the aftermath in Venezuela and some of the hypocrisy I'm seeing, but not surprising. Things falling on political lines, not only in Congress, but the national media. Thanks for joining us. Good morning, New Hampshire, the Pulse of an H.
Thank you, Jack. It's a pleasure to be here with you and your listeners.
Jaime, I want to start with one story that I saw over the weekend that I don't think I saw in any ABC, CBS, NBC, MS, whatever they're called. CNN. It was only out of Miami, Florida, but the number of people in the Hispanic community, former Venezuelans, exiled, disgruntled, just celebrating that Maduro was captured after how many administrations and how many bounties on his head. And I didn't see it's just more like, anything negative on this, the national media wants to get to versus the positive reaction in the Hispanic community. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, it's interesting, Jack, because we had an event yesterday in Doral, which is the city where most Venezuelans live in South Florida. And we had Senator Rick Scott, we had Senator Ashley Moody, we had Congress members Carlos Jimenez, and other members of the community. Plenty of Venezuelans attended the event. They were celebrating. Of course, they want some answers. There are more questions than answers at this time. But what they see is President Trump promised that he was going to get rid of Nicolas Maduro, and he did it. What's going to happen with Venezuela? Of course, there is a lot of things to resolve. There is a lot of things still on the table. It's not the ideal situation. It couldn't have been. Some people thought that it was going to be very easy. We're going to get rid of Maduro, and then we're going to plant Edmundo Gonzalez and Maria Corina Machado, and everything was going to be, heaven. It's not like that. Of course, there is a lot of things to happen. There are some concerns about President Trump saying that he wants the Venezuelan oil. That's not exactly what he meant. He meant that there is a lot of money that has to be spent to rebuild Venezuela, and that money has to come from somewhere. And of course, it's a very good situation that Venezuela can offer the oil reserves, the largest oil reserves in the world, to pay for those expenses.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think people would have to be naive to say, and you look at what we've done in other administrations, not just Donald Trump's administration, on strategic interest when it comes to things like natural resources or oil. Of course, Venezuela, it's a strategic part of the world. We had a full-blown naval blockade there. We've captured some of these Venezuelan oil tankers that are falling under, sailing under false flags or, breaking sanctions, and you're right. This administration, the president did what he said he was going to do. But Jaime, what surprises me is I can see Democrats in Congress debating, wanting to know and be briefed, and that's a legitimate part of an equal co-branch of government. But I find it amazing that even New Hampshire, our own Democrats in the federal delegation, other than Chris Pappas praising our military for a very successful strategic operation to get Maduro and his wife, we didn't have any crashed helicopters or missed missiles or rockets. It was very strategic. Why can't the Democrats at least say overall, hey, it's good that Maduro is gone? I haven't seen that sentence, those few words put together. Hey, it's good that we got Maduro when he's gone. I mean, the Biden administration had a $25 million bounty for his arrest and capture. Trump does it. Why can't they say it's good that he's gone? I mean, this was not a good guy.
Because for them, it's better to have Maduro governing Venezuela than to have Donald Trump getting rid of Maduro. That's something that
elaborate on that, please.
Yes, they cannot accept that President Trump has been having one victory after another since, almost 1 year ago when he assumed the White House. Everything has been doing very well for him. Tariffs has been working for the country very well. He has been able to get very good deals for American products all over the world. A lot of treaties were signed by different countries that used to have conflicts. And thanks to President Trump, those conflicts disappeared. There are many things that are being successful for President Trump. And now this one is successful too, because he promised to get rid of Nicolas Maduro, and he did it. So for Democrats, they have to try to find something to attack President Trump on any issue. And this one has been very uncomfortable for them to need to accept that this turned out very well for the president and the armed forces.
Tell us briefly about your role, Jaime.
I'm in charge of Hispanic communications. We have a lot of Hispanics in our party. Almost 17% of the votes in last election were from Hispanics all over the country. And my responsibility is making sure that they get the right information at the right time, and that we have contacts with the Hispanic media that we can use to get our people acquainted with what's really happening in this country.
Now, do you feel, again, that the national media, or is this, trying to be objective here? I'm not trying to add to the politics of this. I really am not, but it seems inevitable these days. Everything seems to be politicized. But do you feel that the national media, and I would define that as more the networks, the mainstream, television type news, national news, New York Times, do you think they've not played up the large Venezuelan communities in America, like you mentioned, in, I guess, Florida and the Hispanic community, on their reaction to this? Do you think they've downplayed, like your event yesterday sounded pretty legit? Do you think they've intentionally not covered that, or do you feel that I'm not right in saying that?
Absolutely. They have not. They have not. I don't think that they have approached the right people to get the right reactions. They just want to find people that object this, and they oppose some people, of course.
Yeah.
We live in a democracy. We have the right to think our way anyway, and that's wonderful for this country. But they have not been equal to give the people that really support this action the opportunity to express themselves.
Had Kamala Harris won in November, and remember the national poll said it was going to be a toss-up. We wouldn't know for weeks or months, but had Harris won the race and had taken this action this weekend, do you think they'd be clapping from the rooftops?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yes. President Biden signed some agreements with the Maduro regime. They promised that they were going to respect the result of the election on July 28, 2024, and they didn't. The last administration, the Democratic administration of Joe Biden, freed some relatives of Celia Flores, who is now in New York, as indicted by the Trump administration. They freed one of the biggest cronies in Venezuela, Alex Saab, and the Venezuelan government didn't comply with what they promised, which was to respect the result of the election, the outcome of the election.
Yeah.
And at that time, of course, the media was very, wonderful. We're having peaceful conversations with the Maduro regime. Everything is going to be solved, and nothing of that happens. Now that the American government is having conversations with the vice president of Venezuela, who is not exactly the person we wanted to have in power in Venezuela, but this is the only person that we can have a conversation with. And with the Secretary of State Rubio in charge of this, I'm sure that we're going to have very good results of all this situation.
Jaime Flores, thank you so much for joining us here in New England. Good Morning, New Hampshire, the Pulse of an Age. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. We come back. It's interesting. The Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which basically oversaw NPR, PBS, and hundreds of local radio and TV stations like here in New Hampshire, New England, across the country for almost 50 years. Board of directors have voted to dissolve the organization, basically pull the plug. Corporation of Public Broadcasting votes to shut down completely because Congress cut off its federal money. When we come back, and I'm a fan of more media and good local programming, not less, but as someone who's had to do it, the sales, sponsorship, advertising model, to have a show on the air in a company that's profitable, which I'm proud to say about Benny Media in New England, and pay the light bills, I'm wondering why they didn't decide to keep it going and try and sell advertising and get sponsorship support to keep the Corporation of Public Broadcasting alive. Back with that and a lot more after this. Hey, Jack Heath here. Tune in.
to Jack Heath on the Pulse of New Hampshire.
All right, we got a full show for you this morning, a packed show. So coming up, one of the other stories that's not being told after the capture of Maduro, and let me be clear about the role that and some of the charges that Maduro and his wife are going to be facing or already yesterday arraigned in New York federally. Part of it's going to be not just narco-terrorism, but drug dealing, drug distribution, weapons, a lot of things, serious stuff. But what they principally, if you've looked at the last several weeks and the Trump administration, these strategic strikes on the narco terrorism drug, the boats that have been blown up full of drugs. Most of those drugs, I'm not a DEA expert or agent, but most of those drugs might be cocaine, not fentanyl. It might be cocaine, not fentanyl, but they are drugs. And Venezuela's played a key role, kind of a brokering role with Colombia. And President Trump has pointed that out, correctly so, by the way. But America's addiction problem are illegal drugs. And synthetic fentanyl has gotten so lethal. And we did a special town hall on this over the last year or two. For years, John Delano with the DEA, we've talked about this. The synthetic fentanyl that was coming, some of it even from a chemical point of view, had some origins in China, which the Trump administration has pointed out and raised internationally. But really the cartels in Mexico have been pumping this stuff across the border. And what you should realize, and this is where I try and remain calm and not get animated and start slamming some people's politics, but the people that have been so clueless on even wanting to understand why closing the southwest border with Mexico and the United States was so important, not just from 12 to 15 million undocumented people coming across, but what people don't understand in their righteous politics, because they think they're so wicked right all the time, they don't understand that the 2 or 3 major cartels controlled the Mexican side of the border, not the Mexican government. And they were taking advantage of that open border that the Biden administration kept wide open for the last 4+ years, wide open. How many thousands of people were coming across a day? But you didn't hear any yapping from the far left about the human trafficking. The cartel was taking advantage of human trafficking, making money with not just drug runners and the tunnels bringing the fentanyl into America, which was killing and still is killing Americans, the synthetic fentanyl in places like Manchester and Nashua and Littleton, New Hampshire and Massachusetts, Maine, all across this country. And families that are dealing with addiction are acutely aware of this. And the cartels, and John Delano on my show publicly identified the Sinaloa and a couple of the cartels that are multi-billion-dollar organizations that loved that open border. They thrived and were making more money and getting more power and controlling cities like Juarez and other border communities and paying off the people to let them sit on the corners with their machine guns and control the border. They loved the open border. And then this administration comes in and basically shuts it down in about 60 or 70 days completely, 99.9%, cutting off their access to this drug and human trafficking. And you can't even say that's a good thing. Okay, so let's move on. So Maduro's captured. He's been declared a threat, his regime, back to the Obama administration, and Biden placed a $25 million bounty on him. And you have people on the far left who can't even say it's a good thing we took him out and captured him. But the cocaine may not be fentanyl, but it's still a very dangerous drug. And they were a very big drug dealer and player. And it's probably a good thing that he's out. But I don't even hear that enough. We can debate notifying Congress, when to notify Congress, whether you feel that you're getting enough answers, Chuck Schumer, about what the Trump intentions are with Venezuela. But why do you also say, and I'll tell you why, because people are so politically small, they can't say this. Why do you say it's a good thing that Maduro's gone? It's a good thing he's out. I guess it doesn't fit the narrative. As far as the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, I just mentioned before the break, pulling the plug on the corporation that oversees the entire sort of PBS NPR network because Congress pulled their funding. Why doesn't that board be entrepreneurial and say, okay, for 50 years, we had it pretty good because we could rely on this public funding for the public broadcasting? Why don't we continue public broadcasting, but go after individual donors and corporations that support our programming? Why don't we continue? Why do we dissolve? Why don't we keep going? If we like these public programs for kids and education and documentaries and all these shows, excuse me, why don't we keep going and do what all the commercial stations have had to do for decades, and that is sell advertising to make money? What a novel concept. 603-228-2080. Hey, Alexa. Hey, Google. Play the Pulse of NH. We're going to get a quick check-in on the families that do have to deal with addiction when it comes to drugs, and the story that you're not hearing in the national media. There's almost some of the media is trying to make it look like Maduro's the good guy and we're the bad guy. Unbelievable. Hey, Alexa. Hey, Google. Worldwide. Play the Pulse of NH. Doug Tengden's going to check in on the economic side, World Market Advisors. And then at the top of the 10 o'clock hour, a very heartfelt discussion with New Hampshire Executive Councilor John Stephen, who's planning to attend the Governor and Executive Council meeting tomorrow morning, Wednesday morning tomorrow. It'll be his first in quite a while. Because over the holidays, John Stephen, who's an avid jogger and sort of health nut, if you want to say, dropped in a early morning jog in Florida, visiting his family, his parents, and had a near fatal heart attack. And if it wasn't for a good Samaritan couple who came to his aid quickly and got an ambulance there, he might not be joining us at 10 o'clock. I'm very grateful. John Stephen will be sharing his thoughts as he sort of gets back to work tomorrow in the council meeting. Hey, Alexa. Hey, Google. Play the Pulse of NH. Back in a moment.
107.7
All right. I guess a little more, J-Dog, what, snow and ice tonight? Are you hearing that?
Snow and ice. Don't like it.
The snow is one thing, right? It's that ice. It's the darn ice. You know, I don't know. Does it seem like we got a pretty, even though winter didn't start till into December, pretty real cold and snowy, you know, like a real winter in December
Yes.
already?
The Old Farmer's Almanac said it was going to be.
We get mild if you check the temperatures towards the end of the week.
Like that. Good
Huh?
morning, New Hampshire.
All right. So tonight, let's just take a moment. Wintry mix. How many times have we heard that this season? Wintry mix tonight. Could mean tonight and early morning, icy roadways or icy driveways and icy walkways. But a wintry mix tonight. A couple inches last night. Not a lot, but a pretty kind of light snowfall. A lot of people really wanting to get away to Florida. A lot of friends down there. And then there's the other story we're not talking about is the flu. Wow. We have a doctor on tomorrow talking about this respiratory, I guess it's influenza type A, if you don't get diagnosed. And it's making the rounds right now. We're one of the states here that's spiking. And it is what I'm hearing from firsthand, not me, but people around me, respiratory, chronic cough, body aches and pains, and a fever. And the kick in the shin with all this is it takes a good week to get ahead of it or beyond it and get over it. Almost 10 days is what I've been seeing for people who are ordinarily healthy. And then the flu shot, apparently, because this happens more often than not, is not even a good match for this strain of flu that is spreading. I think 30 states right now, 30 are seeing a spike. So, by the way, we're broadcasting on YouTube as well. If you want to watch in the first hour at the Pulse of an H, I want to bring in Renee Plummer, regular contributor. Oh, she's not on? Oh, John Decker, our White House correspondent. I apologize.
Then, Renee.
Okay, the great one, John Decker. First of all, Happy New Year, John.
Hey, Happy New Year to you too, Jack. Hope you're doing well, staying healthy, and hopefully the weather cooperates with you this week as well.
Well, it's getting more mild, but we've had a real winter already here. John, we could go a lot of directions, of course. Venezuela seems to be a top news briefings in Congress. But
Sure.
what do you have for us?
Well, I think Venezuela is the top story this week. How could it not be? You know, after all, it's not every day that the U.S. Goes in and snatches the leader of another country, and just days later, he's in a federal courtroom pleading not guilty to very serious charges of narco trafficking. So that's some big news. And as you know, senior members of the Trump administration last night briefed senior members of the military, of Congress, I should say, about what the next steps are for Venezuela. And according to some Democratic members at that meeting, they said it was an extensive meeting, but it left them dissatisfied in terms of some of the answers given by administration officials like Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
Now, John, you're in this line every day. You see the news, you cover it, you do a great job at it. You've been doing it quite a while. I had said on my show right up through New Year's Eve day on Wednesday, hey, everyone, I know you're paying attention to the holidays, New Year's retail shopping. Keep an eye on Venezuela. Keep an eye on Venezuela. I'm telling you, something's going to pop there. We have a full naval blockade. We have an aircraft carrier. We have special ops, CIA in the country. Something's going to happen. So don't be surprised. And everyone was like, oh, my goodness. We went in and attacked Caracas in Venezuela and took Maduro. I mean, Maduro should have been the least surprised person on earth that our Delta team went in to wake him up.
Well, that's right. A huge military buildup over the course of the last few months in the Caribbean, and that military buildup has not dispersed. It remains there in the Caribbean, sending a very strong message not only to Venezuela, but to other countries the president has mentioned, like Colombia, like Cuba, for instance. So that's something that we're keeping our eyes on this week. The president, within the next hour, will speak to the House Republican Conference. That will be at the Kennedy Center, and certainly he'll talk about Venezuela. I have no doubt, but it's really a pep talk for House Republicans, every one of those members up for re-election this year.
Thank you, John Decker, our own White House correspondent, live at the White House. Renee Plummer, great friend, great contributor to the show, great partner out there, great advocate for veterans, but I wanted to get her thoughts. And speaking of Venezuela and the narco terrorism and the drug stuff, you've also, Renee, people may not know as much about this as much as your veteran advocacy for Veterans Count, part of Easter Seals, but you've done a lot for Easter Seals and other groups trying to raise awareness on the battle that families face every day, every night on addiction with a loved one, whether it's a kid of theirs, but addiction, drugs, it's a vicious cycle. And you shared some thoughts with me that I wanted to share with our listeners that I don't think this is being articulated the way it should be on this story. But good morning.
Hi. So, they're talking about 100,000 people that die each year on drugs for some reason or another. They are concentrating on 100,000. That's not the point, Jack. The point is the millions of families, the millions of people that are addicted now, that families are fighting. They're fighting for their children or their loved one, their parents. That's the big problem. And I know this is going to sound terrible, but some of those people who have passed away, it almost is a relief for the horrible life that people lead trying to fight the addiction. You fight it and you fight it so much, Jack, you can taste it. You wake up in the middle of the night, a phone rings and you're jumping because you're thinking it's your loved one calling, or it's the police, or maybe it's the drug dealer calling to see if your son is there because they're so high on something. I'm telling you, it's not the deaths. It's the families that are addicted.
We might have lost the cell. Go ahead, Renee.
I said, if I had gotten to do it, I would have gone in and gotten Madero. And people are so stupid that they think this is all about oil. You know what? If it's all about oil and you get that piece of crap out of there, I'm happy. You know what? Good. Take the oil, but get that piece of crap and his whole administration out of there. They're making millions on our children. Jack, I had to deal with it from 95 to 2007 when my son died. I said, can you imagine living like this, not wonder, and trying to run a business and having kids and trying to do other things? It is the worst thing in the world. I wish it on no one. Yeah. But you have to understand it's the people that are dealing with it day to day, day by day, the hour by hour.
Yep. Well, that's you and I know because you've helped others, but I have 3 different friends, parents that are dealing with this with kids. And I've seen it age them overnight. Physically, I've seen them not know where to turn when their kid is in between an arrest or a detention or a bad episode medically, and they don't know.
But Jack, the money that you're looking for to help for these recovery centers.
I know. It's like tens of thousands of dollars. And then if you have any money, you don't qualify for any of the federal stuff because they expect you to pay for it. And one of my friends said that the place he was trying to get his kid into was $17,000 a month.
Oh, that's nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, that is nothing. I mean, there was a point where I just needed a credit card and it was $30,000 a month.
Yeah.
And this is, 15 years ago.
Oh no, it's amazing. But unless you're in your seat or one of these families, you don't know, do you?
You don't know.
No.
And I swear to God, I want to go to Congress right now and say, you people have no idea what you are saying.
Yeah.
You're doing this political crap. I don't care. Go get these drug dealers.
Well, I'm not going to get you going, but you're someone who can pick up a phone and you've done this with many causes and you can get a lot of lofty people to listen. Have you said this to our own members of Congress, the delegation? Have you said this about parents and addiction? And we say getting Maduro out is a good thing. Have you said this? Have you touched base with any of our members of Congress saying, why aren't you pointing this out?
No, because I get going and it's like right now it's going to take me an hour just to calm down and to continue what I'm supposed to be doing.
I know. Well, you got to calm down, but you spreading and sharing this word And I can think of one friend in particular. I'm not going to say his name. And then a mutual friend of ours, John Broderick, was the only person I could think that he could call.
Yep.
He said,
Yep.
I think I can share this because I'm not going to violate HIPAA. And you know exactly this story because I think it's the same for every mom or dad or brother or sister or aunt and uncle or grandparents. He said, my kid ran away because he's an adult from where he was supposed to be. The police picked him up. He hasn't threatened the police. I almost want the police to arrest him to protect him so he doesn't go out on the street and take more fentanyl or drugs. I don't know where to turn. I don't know where to go. If they put him back in the system, he's going to get killed. And I'm listening to this conversation going, oh my goodness, how do you eat and sleep at night?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know what? When they are picked up and go to jail, there's a lot of family members. It's the first time they're going to sleep. They know at least 8 hours.
That's what he was saying. But the
child.
police said, we can't really do that because he hasn't threatened us or assaulted us or broken the law in front of us. So we got to either let him go on the street, and you know what that means, or we can't. I don't know. There was a reason why they couldn't just return him home because of the safety factor. It's just a mess for these families and drugs. And you know, the other thing that ticks me off, Renee, now you get me going, is I was pointing out earlier the difference between synthetic fentanyl and cocaine.
Yeah.
And, you know, the last 4 years before this administration, I'm sorry, but I'm going to tell you a fact that southwestern border was wide open. And John Delaner, the DEA, said the 2 or 3 main cartels controlled that side of the border. And it wasn't just illegal immigrants coming across. It was a wide open bonanza for them to sell and move the fentanyl into America and add to all this addiction. And no one seemed to care about that. And then the border got shut and no one says it's a good thing.
All right, Jack, wait a minute. Look at from Maine to Miami. You've got the whole eastern seaboard. You've got a coast there. You don't know what comes in on the Piscataqua River.
No, I know you don't.
I mean, it's just not the border.
Yep.
If they want to come in, they are coming in. And I'm going to tell you something else. It's not the drugs of 20, 30 years ago. These drugs make you addicted the moment you take them. You've got these chemists, you've got these people that are dealing, and they're sitting there and they're figuring, we don't have time to go ahead and give them a year to be addicted.
And they don't care.
We have to give them they don't care. They want the money.
They don't care if the person overdoses.
No, but Jeff, they're trying to weaken America. The American people don't understand this.
I know.
These people don't need everything today. They're waiting. They're waiting 5, 10, 15, 20, 50 years from now. They're just weakening America a little by little with these drugs.
Yep.
All right. That's it.
All right. Well, listen, thank you for sharing the message and what you've done for advocacy, not just for veterans, but families of addiction. Thank you, Renee.
Yeah. Right. Bye.
You know, a story that, again, could be told right now. I just thought of this, and maybe I'll mention it to Mike Cody. New Hampshire Business Review is coming up and a little bit later. But El Chapo, you've heard of him, right? Even J-Dog, you've heard of Joaquin, El Chapo. In prison. He and his brother, true story, he and his brother came to the Wentworth Hotel over in the seacoast of New Hampshire years ago, came in on a big yacht and boat and met there. And the U.S. Attorney's Office, which does great work out of New Hampshire and Concord, had a case against him. And they conspired, I guess they were monitoring them, and they conspired on their drug route coming out of places like Lawrence and Lowell up into places like Nashua, New Hampshire, Manchester, Portland, Maine. And they mapped the whole thing out on their distribution, the El Chapo drug network, the cartel, a long time ago at the Wentworth, right in Newcastle Rye, New Hampshire. And you can look this up. There were federal charges brought against them. And they chose New England when Renee just mentioned the seacoast. They chose New England. Do you know why they chose New England back then? This is probably 15, 20 years ago, maybe more. They chose New England because of the affluence and the high addiction rate to other things like opioids for pain meds. They chose New England because they're a cartel, a multi-billion-dollar business and they chose the most profitable area to sell their goods in. So they set up the network that's still going for fentanyl. And they chose New England because of the addiction rate and the affluence. And another kick in the shins is this one. Why I'm critical sometimes of the general scam of our healthcare system sometimes is that whole opioid market for 20 years, like Oxy and the pain meds for chronic pain. And we were told, meaning you, me. I remember one of my kids had a shoulder surgery from a sports injury, and I came home and she's like a zombie. And I called the doctor. I go, "What the hell do you give her for pain medication?" And he goes, "Get the bottle, please, and read it to me." He goes, "Oh, no, that we made a mistake. She should be on more powerful Tylenol." They had given her an Oxy. And to Renee Plummer's point, a young person or an older person can get hooked in a week on that stuff. And we were told, lied to by Big Pharma, lied to because of all the money that was made with Oxy and Percocets and all these pain meds, that it was not addictive. For what, 2 decades, we were told, hey, here's a bottle of 30 Oxycontin, oxycodone. Don't worry, it's not addictive. Take it for your sprained ankle. It's not addictive. Okay, not addictive. We'll be back. Good morning, New Hampshire, the Pulse of an H. Addiction, it's a problem still right here at home. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of an H. Back in a moment.
This is the live from the Outdoor Pride Studios. Outdoor Pride is the Granite State's largest landscape and snow management firm, proudly serving commercial properties from Greater Manchester to Greater Boston. Visit them online at outdoorpride.com. Now, back to Jack Heath on the Pulse of New Hampshire.
All right, real winter, a little wintry mix tonight. Some snow and some sleet, and could be icy tonight and tomorrow morning. And then we get a warm-up, a big warm-up for Wild Card Weekend, they call it. All right, Patriots Chargers, I guess, Sunday night. We'll get a lot more coming up at the top of the 10 o'clock. We're going to hear from New Hampshire Executive Counselor live, John Stephen, who is planning tomorrow to go to the governor and executive council meeting in the morning, Wednesday morning, here in Concord, his first one in quite a while because he suffered a near fatal heart attack in Florida, jogging early morning down visiting his parents. And if it wasn't for a great couple that really came to his aid, and he'll tell us, probably saved his life. He's back, and he's going to share his thoughts of gratitude and appreciation coming up in a little bit. Doug Tengden, World Market Advisors. Markets liked some of yesterday's aftermath of snatching a bad guy in Caracas, but what's going on? Good. Happy New Year to you, Doug.
Happy New Year to you, Jack. Yeah, yesterday was a great day. I think the market was more looking forward to Jensen Huang's speech at the Consumer Electronics meeting where he announced the new chip. But they're not opposed to cheaper oil. The bottom line, as far as the market is concerned, is that oil is going to be cheaper because the Venezuelan oil could come back on the market.
Yeah, you know what? We don't really know how all this will work because it's been dialed down from any U.S. production for the years. I don't want to get into the hypocrisy of Hugo Chavez when the socialists take over the oil for the people. I remember in the end, he got rich and the people around him were billionaires, but the people in Caracas were invading the local zoo for meat and food. And they were supposed to help the people, their oil reserves. We'll see where it goes from here. But what else is catching your eyes? We're into the new year.
Well, on Friday, we're going to get the first real, full employment report. And that's going to be very interesting. The market is expecting to tick down on the unemployment rate from 4.6. Last time it was reported, it hopped up a little unexpectedly, expecting it to tick back down. There is a good chance, based on some other indicators, it could tick up, which will be a little bit of a surprise. There's a kind of the not happy days are here again vibe, but sort of a reflation, reacceleration. We're firing on all cylinders vibe. And, we've talked about how the employment market is a little bit weak. I think it might have stabilized, but it's certainly not roaring. Profits were good, but there's always concern for what's coming around the bend. And I think if we have a tick up in unemployment in the short run, that could spook the market. In the longer run, that'll get the Fed to move another 0.5%, half a percent, which I think would be in the long run good for the economy.
What would that be during this first quarter?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a really good chance, rather than later in the year, they could move the Fed. It could push the Fed to move earlier in the year, if not in the first quarter, certainly in the first half of the year. Maybe 0.25% of the next meeting, and wait one, and then another 0.25%, and that would be in the long run good for the economy and good for the market. Good for the economy because I don't think we're overheating. I think inflation is under control, but good for the economy because small banks currently are marginally profitable. They could be a lot more profitable. When small banks are profitable, then they lend to Main Street.
All right, Doug, World Market Advisors, thank you very much.
Jack, you have a great week.
All right, thank you, Doug. WorldMarketAdvisors.com. We got a packed show for you, and we're going to get right back to it. But before we do, I had to just share this story because I looked it up to see if it's true. Because I thought, this is more of that BS sort of fake political news you see on social media. So I just went to the New York Times, not that they're the definitive source anymore. New York Times. You can't make this stuff up. Does anyone remember when the new mayor of New York City was running and he talked about free bus fares? People are going to ride the buses for free. Does anyone in Gotham City, does anyone out there remember this, or is it just me? Does anyone remember when Mondani, when he promised free bus fares? Well, now, as of yesterday and going into Monday of yesterday in his new administration, subway and bus fare rises to $3 in New York City on Sunday. Fares increased on the Long Island Railroad, Metro North Railroad, and subway and bus fares rise to $3 in New York City. Ha! You can't make this stuff up. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of an Age. Back in a few.